Hello everyone, I'm here with Humain from ASI, one of the founders of Fetch.ai, now part of the alliance.
Yep.
And now you're chairman of this alliance which is growing and growing, bringing in more and more resources. I was talking to some of the people that you're also preparing some interesting announcements. Some of them are, let's say, under wraps, you're not talking too much about it, but you're training AI from what I understand.
Yeah.
And you're doing big steps in this arena. So Fetch, also Ocean, and all other partners started off as trying to tackle this problem of intelligence, but also privacy and personal data.
Yes. It's quite interesting, and I think that's when it starts to make sense why the alliance, right? So if you start from data, which is kind of the core focus, privacy on the data, Ocean has all the tools and has all the experience that it brings. I mean, as different components, Fetch doesn't actually deal with the data side, but Ocean does.
Yes.
So Ocean has all the tools for access control of data, data privacy, the transportation of data. There is plenty of information available. It's a project which started in 2017, has tackled many data problems. So privacy of data is one of our biggest concerns. However, it's not just about data. What you are looking at data is building something valuable out of the data. So then if you look at the alliance, you start building on top of that data, then comes the AI models, the machine learning models. So Singularity brings those models. We have Ben Goertzel, who I think most of the world in AI knows about him. He is working on artificial intelligence models. But we're not just focusing on blue sky thinking, because ultimately you need a practical application. You need to build practical applications which the market, any market would use. And I think that's one of the biggest problems in crypto. We have very low utility. I mean, I love meme coins as any other person, but the utility is low, right? So there is only a few applications.
For many of the players inside this room is crypto gambling.
Sure. But we kind of not focusing on that side. We are saying, actually, blockchain has a utility. And blockchain has the main utility, which we already know, digital currency, we already dealt with. I think there's plenty of players who are dealing with digital currency. It's a great application, we need it. On top of that, we need to build something. And AI actually lends itself to blockchain. Why? Because coordination layer, auditing layer, orchestration of different tasks, all of those things cannot, and it's very difficult to keep them centralized. So, giving you an example, if we all had our own AI agents, the whole place had it, who is going to manage them? We all want to manage our own self, and that's starting from the point you made. Who manages my data? What's the data privacy? You should be able to control your data, you should be able to control your agent. But how do you then coordinate connecting with other people's agents?
Exactly.
Right? So blockchain is a beautiful tool to do that. Now, blockchain and other technologies as well, but if you want to look at decentralizing all of this, blockchain is the tool. That's why we got into it as Fetch. We looked at other solutions and we got into Web3 for that reason. Okay. So that's the core.
Let me take you back to data. So, and I'm behind my computer. I have my own personal data on my machine. Let's say I'm running a large language model locally on my machine with the processing power that I have. That's a bottleneck right there. And then I need to do something with that data. The product of my, let's say, work with that large language model needs to communicate with third parties. So how do you solve these bottlenecks? Because again, my data needs to be locally on my machine. It's not 100% safe there. My machine could get stolen, could get broken. Something can happen to it. So my data is not 100% safe locally. That's one thing to consider. You would consider if you have it in your pocket, it's safe. It's safe until it's not there anymore.
Yes, of course.
So that's for layer one, let's say, in my perspective. Second is processing power. A new machine, let's say from Apple, can run some LLMs or some powerful GPUs from NVIDIA. But what comes next? How do I interact? How do I take the product of my work and make it work with other people, with other systems?
So that's a great example of people asking the same question. So Ocean has a product, compute to data, data to compute. You can use compute to come to you, or you can take data and compute together with privacy and train somebody else's model using that data. So you can do that. That's one. You can actually store the data in a much more privacy-preserving way. You can apply compute in a privacy-preserving way. Those products, we're not talking about these products. These products exist, so they're already there. Then you talked about training machine learning models. So, you alone on your machine can't. But we have Kudos, which is the recent addition, which is the compute layer. So what the compute layer does is you have all these GPUs available, all these compute power available, and you have a distribution layer on top where you can actually go and train the machine learning models. You can participate in other people's models without giving your data away, but you can still train it. Or you can actually deploy your own model and ask other people to train it. We launched this product in Fetch in 2020. It's called CoLearn. Then nobody was aware of it, but that was a POC, but we are now bringing a production model for that. So you can actually start training big models with big collaborations. And we're building communities around different useful models, which are not just Web3 communities. Because one of the key points is to bring other normal science, technology communities into Web3. And this is not just about Web3, it's about AI and Web3. So there are communities which are coming in, they're training these models which are going to be on their data, but without losing their data.
Specific industries, specific
we're looking
technologies.
we're looking at biotech.
Okay.
We're looking at physics, material science, which is, I mean, if you think about all these protein folding examples, drug discovery examples, because generative AI brings all of that to the forefront, right? And then solving problems with, solving big world problems like, we have a lot of data on black holes, which we can be cosmological problems. All these problems, there's a lot of universities who need to use it. They just don't have the models to use it. And I think Web3 can play a huge role in actually bringing that to life.
But there's that much resources you can throw at a problem. From what I'm seeing, trying to compete with the centralized offerings in the market is becoming a losing battle, at least on the short term. I'm seeing new large language models that are being invested heavily by OpenAI, by Tesla, or anyone else in the space. I'm hearing about hundreds of billions of dollars into compute and energy to train next generation models. So how can you actually compete with that?
You don't have to compete with that. It's not about just throwing resource. If you think about it, large language models are getting better and better, but they are still, they're missing something. They're not right. Missing? So sentience.
I'm looking at O1 preview.
Do you think?
Very good.
Do you think
the new Claude Sonnet? Excellent.
You're just talking about large language models.
Yes.
But there are other models. There are other foundational models in different industries, which the big industry is not focusing on. We're not just talking about bringing just large language models. For example, we're bringing large action models. Not everybody's focusing on that. You're bringing protein folding models, which although DeepMind has done, but there are other variants of it. So the idea is to build these foundational models to enable research. I mean, large language models are great, but they're not general intelligence. There's something. Not yet. But how do you know?
What about ChatGPT 5? Everybody's talking about the next best model.
It needs to be able to think like a human. It can't do that. Are
you sure?
I am certain.
Because sometimes when I talk to O1 preview or the new, like I said, the new Claude Sonnet, it feels very smart.
It feels very smart, but it isn't. Your OpenAI can tell you that themselves.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure you can listen to some of Sam's interviews and DeepMind's interviews. It's a known fact. They're not realistically sentient. They're not realistically.
But do we need sentience?
No, but
we need effectiveness. We need them to execute.
For sure. I mean, for sure. Because if you're looking at commercialization, that's what you need, what you have, right? It's getting better and better. But there is a whole infrastructure. There is more foundational models which they're not focusing on.
Okay.
We can bring that into Web3.
Okay.
So it's not just about language. It's about many other things. It's about discovery of materials, and universities are working on it. They don't have the resource to work on it. So you need to bring communities into Web3 to actually create these communities which can train these models, which are useful not just for language. And then, for example, on top of all of that, what you're going to use language model for is to do something. And have you noticed they can't do that many things? Okay. They can do coding, they can do language, but they can't do action, right?
Yes.
So you need to bring multi-agent system, which is what Fetch does, to actually execute that. But what does that do is actually it takes away the aggregators which sit in the middle, who are the biggest tech companies in the world right now. So if you look at Google, Google is an aggregator. It's the biggest company. What it does is it connects person A to person B using websites. The websites are going to be replaced with agents.
I was just doing something like this with computer use from Anthropic the other day, and I was looking at how that agent was going through the internet, not necessarily needing websites. Some stuff it was doing behind the scenes in terminal. If it needed something, it wouldn't just Google it, it would go straight to the source. So we are looking at a future where agents will be much faster, and they don't actually need websites or search engines and stuff like that.
So the opportunity to build, not compete with big corporations, but to build alternative solutions, but to build other solutions which might not be feasible for big corporations to build, is huge.
But my question remains: aren't you afraid that some of these big players will come with one size fits all, with a tool, a universal tool? Because it's my understanding that human science, human knowledge is limited. And large language models have already scraped the internet and human knowledge, and now we are going into synthetic data, synthetic information, creating new science eventually. So what is there more to discover? What can you actually do different from let's say, a general exceptional model?
So I think that's a very broad brush statement that you just made. But I don't agree with most of it. I do agree with a lot of it, because the reason why we created this alliance is to have a chance to even provide an alternative solution as compared to the corporates. We see, and I think we are in a Web3 kind of environment, so I'm kind of keep bringing the focus back to Web3. We have gazillions of tokens. We have gazillions of projects. We can't all survive, as you said. If something bigger, better comes along, how is everybody going to compete with it? So the way to deal with it is to join forces, actually bring a solution which people can actually build on. There's not all these solutions don't exist right now. So we do have some time to be a viable alternative to what other companies are bringing. I'm not saying we can throw 100 billion resource on it, right? But we need to be clever of what niche of the market we target.
Are you calling everyone to arms, let's say? So abandon everything, focus on AI right now?
I would. That would be my personal opinion, because I don't think any of the other things are actually, in comparison, insignificant. The change that is coming is huge, and the main change is not just in these language models and this general intelligence. The main thing that is coming is we're going to open up new avenues of research, as you just said. That means we're going to have different solutions for these problems. So if we solve the quantum problem, I don't think we'll see traffic.
Of course.
We will just be transporting things in the ether. So
So let's take a look around and be honest to each other. In 5 years' time, I would say more than 75% of the projects here will be gone, useless, unless they switch to AI.
I hold judgment on it because I also
Please
know
do.
human nature. So I mean, not to say this, but it's a market is where people want something and people get something, right?
Okay.
If they want a dog with a hat, then it's a dog with a hat that won. So you can't actually change market forces. We're all human.
Okay,
So
okay.
I don't want to take a bet on who's going to be here or not. But what I'm saying is, if you want to do something meaningful, I think you should need to join forces in this AI race that is happening to have any ability to compete or exist with any other project. So that's my personal opinion.
Last question. If I want to use any of the tools you've been talking about, where do I go today? Because if I want to play with computer use, I go to the Anthropic website. If I want to use any of the Alliance tools and
You
resources,
just go to their website. Fetch.ai is a simple and easy website to remember. Fetch AI. You can start from there. ASI has a website. We have plenty of social media channels. We have a GitHub repositories for each project and a combined one. So you can deploy all the technologies that we're building now, and you'll see a huge progress coming in the next few months because we're now putting all our efforts together, and we're going to be delivering a tech stack where you can actually build solutions much easier, much quicker.
Thank you so much, Mike.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great conversation.
You're really good interview.
Thank you.